Now let's get to our next game, boys. Manly versus the Doggies. Before we do, though, some shout-outs. Store shout-outs. Seaview Cellars in Beaumaris. Vincent is stocked up with both midi and lager. This is all Victoria, guys. Seaview Cellars, Beaumaris. Vincent stocked up with midi and lager. Steve's Liquor, Springvale South. Manager Stephen is stocked up with lager and a special at $59.95 a case and is running a soccer jersey promotion. As you guys know, if you buy a six-pack or a case of Bloke Beer, you have a chance to win a Bloke soccer jersey. And also in Victoria, obviously it's a smaller area for us, so the chances of you winning that jersey are really high. So get into Steve's Liquor in Springvale South. Then we've got Grape and Grain in Moorabool. Owner Paul is stocked up with both midi and lager. Steve's Liquor Highton. Manager Wayne is stocked up with both midi and lager and is also running a party promotion shirt. So again, you buy a case, you win a chance to win a shirt. Then we've got Celebrations in St Kilda. Manager Matt is stocked up with both the midi and the lager and is also running a shirt promo. So Victorians, get amongst it. Get in there for a chance to win a shirt. But let's get to the game. Manly versus the Doggies. You know what we'll do is we'll screenshot the odds, the sports bet odds, when we do the tipping at the end of the show, so that we can look back and go, what was the value? What was the odds?
Manly were $1.75.
And didn't we say that was pretty good?
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And which was funny because Manly hadn't won a round one for a while. Anyway, Manly defeat the Dogs 31-6. Now, Manly were definitely dominant, but I do think the Dogs were in the game until pretty much Kyle Flanagan got sent in the bin. The headline from this game, in my opinion, is there's two headlines. Manly, wow. Second headline is, what a terrible call against the Doggies for that 10 in the bin. There is not a world, a universe, a multiverse, a dimension that is 10 in the bin. You are kidding me. Like, are we watching the same video? And it's in slow-mo as well. Like, what are we doing? Like, when you watch it in slow-mo, you think that Kyle Flanagan had as much time to think as the slow-mo. When it happens like that, Tom Trbojevic went past him. The ball went behind him. Tom Trbojevic is almost slowing up. It is only natural for Flanagan to put his hands out to brace. What is he supposed to do? Just keep running into Tom Trbojevic? He barely touched him. Look, if you want to give a penalty, fine. 10 in the bin. We are getting way too liberal with this 10 in the bin. It used to be reserved for... You had to kill someone, literally a person. Like you had to honestly, for 10 in the bin, it used to mean something. Now it's like every game we're just 10 in the bin, 10 in the bin. In my opinion, a professional foul is where you can see a clear intent. He intended to foul the person to stop a try. You cannot tell me that was clear intent from Kyle Flanagan. Terrible call.
I personally don't think if it was turbo, it's not a sin bin.
You reckon?
I think it's that superstar sort of value. I reckon if it was Lachlan Croker, for example, I don't reckon he gets a bin for it.
Well, yeah, we were in the car, me and Matty, on the way, or the van, I should say, on the way back from Armidale, and we're listening to this part of it on the radio. And how's the reaction from the commentators going, he hasn't hardly even touched him. They were absolutely seething. Obviously went back and watched it, the video live after. Holy dooly, it was soft.
What a bad call.
Kevy, it's like, I'm glad it's only taken, half an episode into the season to bring it up again, but if only there was, not that this would have been deserving of it, but 5 minutes in bin.
It wouldn't have been,
It wouldn't have been 5 minutes in bin, but at least then it would have been 5 minutes less than what he got. Just bring it in.
Hey, that's the thing. I am really forgiving of referees when they make calls on the fly because things happen so quickly. They happen so quickly, and we can't. We let players make errors all day. Refs are going to make errors. They're going to make errors. So when it happens on the fly, I just go, mate, this is rugby league. You're going to get some calls. You're not going to get some calls. Eventually, it comes around. When you watch a video replay 10 times over and you send someone to... That's unforgivable. It's not good enough. It is not good enough. It's a bad call. I don't think there's anyone that was sitting there going, that deserves 10 in the bin. It's so surprising to me. Anyway, even though that happened, the Dogs definitely didn't deserve to win. That wasn't the reason they lost. I think they lost because Manly were outstanding and the Dogs looked rudderless. They looked really rudderless. We'll talk about Dogs first. Matty Burton seemed... I'm convinced now that Matty Burton needs an extremely dominant 7. I think there was a world or an idea that maybe Matty Burton could become the leader where he directs people around the park. He gets everywhere where he needs to go. I think it's become evident between two things. When he was at Penrith Panthers, I think they tried a similar situation where Luai was the 6 and he was 7 when he came in, or at least they thought Burton would be the guy that lead around. It never really worked. So seeing how he plays at centre, where he's just free to do what he wants to do. Every time he gets the ball, he's free to be Matty Burton. Add that onto the fact that he doesn't seem to be as good at organising. And I think that on the weekend it showed that there's even some people, and I don't agree with it, but I can see where they're coming from, where they go, Matty Burton's a centre. Now, I still think he's a 6, but he's only going to be unlocked if they just allow him to play freely like he does in the centre position, because I don't think he needs to be the guy ordering the troops around getting field position. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think, it'd be great to see Matty Burton play with a Chad Reynolds, one of these guys. And, you know, I obviously categorise Kyle Flanagan as being in that product of player, just not at that class. Yes, in that class. But he, as you said last week, and I agree, you can be successful with Flano, but he needs to nail that shit every week.
Every week, every second of every game.
Yep. Didn't on the weekend.
Unfortunately, no.
Unfortunately, no. And I think it did have an impact on Burton. But I also just thought, mate, like, you have a look at the way the Dolphins play. We'll talk about them soon. But, like, they just got all their fundamentals right. Canterbury were all over the place. And Reid Marnie gave them so much direction, but no one was going with him.
Mate, I think this is what typified their performance. That double pass to kick out, to kick. I can't remember when I've ever seen anything like that. It must have been a set play that they've been working on, surely.
Either that or he's missed the count or something. I can't make sense of it. Like, why would you go 2-ball to a left edge back rower who doesn't have a kick in him, but he's a right footer anyway? Like that ball was never going anywhere but into the grandstand.
And like Burton is one of the best kickers long kickers in the competition. And so that's where I'm like, you know, like that organising stuff, just don't take that off his mind. It's like Munster. It's exactly like Munster. I don't want Munster worried about any of that stuff. Keep his mind free to just play footy in front of him. And that's where Matty Burton's at his best. Like, look what he did in Origin. Look what he did for Australia when he played in the centres. And so I know there are some people that go, no, I think he's a better centre. I still think that he's 100% high-quality 6. He's going to grow into the role. But he needs, unfortunately, you know, Flano either needs to improve. And I know he was off the field for 10 minutes, so maybe it's a bit harsh. But unfortunately with Flano, and we've been his biggest supporters, but the clock's ticking at the moment. Like, it has to come good soon, because otherwise Burton is just going to continue to not be able to do what he needs to do.
The tough thing is, though, that if you're not going Flano, who are you going? You got the young bloke, Carl, who played New South Wales Cup on the weekend. The reports where he absolutely brained it. I went back and watched the highlights the other day. He played really well, but as you said to me on the weekend, he doesn't solve that problem.
Yeah, he's not. He's another than Matty Burton.
And the halfback was Josh Reynolds. He also doesn't solve that problem, so they don't...
Market maybe, go into the market for a good structured 7.
But it makes you wonder, how much money does this side have to be able to, like, it's easy, like...
Well, Gus reckons they got enough to sign a marquee.
Which is wild.
But I will say, you know, it's like funny, and I know we speak about it pretty much every week. It's the weekly Chadwick update. But I tell you what, the Bulldogs would kill to sign Chad Townsend. If you said to like right now, if you said to the Dogs, you can sign Chad Townsend for $900K a year, they'd go, boom, we'll do it right now. They would literally do it in a second. 2 years ago, you would have been laughed out of a room from a lot of good footy pundits, and this is from I think Chaddy's incredible, on $700K. That was overs. It just, again, if you've been in the half position for a long period in the NRL, you are good, because you get chewed up and spat out so quickly in NRL if you're a halfback and you're not good.
And I mean, without coming back to them again, the Dolphins, just what Sean O'Sullivan did yesterday.
He was incredible.
That's all you need to do.
SOS, baby.
Just drop your kicks in the right spot.
He saved our souls.
Just in that age poorly.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, though. Like, again, Sean Sullivan, he's been in a few systems, been around for a while. He was outstanding. So, unfortunately for Flano, the pressure is mounting. I mean, look, the poor kid's been dealing with pressure for years now. But he needs to... Either it needs to be Serraldo that says, Flano, I need you to make all the decisions getting us around the park. Or Flano just needs to step up and do it. I'm not sure which one it is, mate, because maybe he's been told to just play second fiddle to Burton and Burton gets to make all the calls. But I just don't know if Burton's that player. It doesn't seem to suit him. He seems to be that free-flowing guy that just makes magic work when he needs to.
And wasn't it evident, like, that last pass that Burton threw that DC took the intercept off? That was just confidence completely shot, wasn't it?
Yeah, but also it was like the pace at which they were playing.
It was slow. It was
slow.
Yeah, it was a nothing pass. Nothing ever was going to come of it. Yeah.
And that was my concern. Is like the intensity wasn't there. Getting to like all the little details just weren't there, unfortunately, for the Bulldogs. And look, to be fair, in last week we did say the Dogs are going to take a while to warm into this season, but in the areas where I thought they'd be quite strong, they were. I thought Matty Burton was going to be. Look, I had my worry watching him in the trial that he seemed a bit flat, a bit tired. And I still have my worry that he's had such a big few years that he is a bit tired, a bit flat. But I am getting closer to being convinced that he's more of the Munster type than the organising type.
Yeah, well, you had some mail that he was a bit crook in the trials.
Yeah, in the second trial game. It was a bit of a, essentially, get the legs moving around. So in the second trial... Yeah, look, it was a horror show for Matty Burton in that game. I'm happy to forgive it just in the sense that, A, we know his class, but he had a few big mistakes early in the game and he just tried so hard to get on top of it and make amends for it that he just couldn't get into any rhythm in that game. He had new blokes around him and they just could not settle the Doggies into any sort of rhythm. So, look... It won't be that bad again. He's way too good a footballer. But the one thing I will say about Doggies and Tigers fans, we speak about it way too often. Well, not too often because it's so important, but it is these combinations. And, they were two of the newest rosters in the competition, the Tigers and the Dogs. So it takes time. It takes time. It's all right. It's not the end of the world that they both started poorly. Then again, it makes the Dolphins look even more unbelievable that they, with 17 completely new blokes, put that together. You're right, though, and that's it. If Flano doesn't step up, they will give Oluwapu an opportunity to come up, especially if he continues doing what he did on the weekend. But it is 2-5-8. So, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. But if that does happen, does it become this sort of almost Canberra Raiders type structure where you've got Reid Manu who has a running game. He's an organiser. He gives great service. Does he play more of a role in getting the side around the park with two boring 5'8"s? Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Let's hope Flano lifts. He's that number 7 that can organise the side and take pressure off Birdo. Let Birdo do it. Birdo does best, and that is run the football.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a crook old start for them, wasn't it?
Unfortunately, yeah.
With Mitch Moses seemingly doesn't have a contract right now, if you're Canterbury, do you throw the kitchen sink at Mitch?
They already have.
Do you lift it now? What do you...
No, the Doggies could have had Mitch Moses.
Really?
They could have had Mitch Moses. And they've...
So Mitch Moses would have been willing to leave the Eels?
I believe so. And he was open to it.
Okay.
He was very open to it and going to the Dogs. I don't say he was willing to sign on the dotted line, but he was very open to the move. Now... The Doggies have done classic Gus Gould. 5-year plans, he looks to the future, he's done it for years, and we see what's happened at Penrith now. He's gone, all right, do we get, how old's Mitch Moses, 28 or so?
27.
27, 28.
Yeah.
Do we get Mitch Moses now and pay him big money and hinder the rest of our roster, and he comes in and be big for us this year, maybe next year? They're going, let's get Carl Oluwapu, who should, on all reports, be a future superstar. They're backing him to come in, and we want to be peaking, not this year, not even necessarily 2024, but he's thinking down the track. And the money they save on Carl allowed to build the roster across the board, and they've put their faith in the youth as opposed to going for the older, more seasoned talent.
The only concern I have with that is the fact that he's not a 7, he's another 6. And so, maybe there is a world where they're going, let's go the Raiders route, where Marnie... And look, Marnie did kind of play that role on the weekend. Like, he was creating havoc around the ruck. But it's going to take time with the Doggies. Like, I think that people just need to be patient. It's going to take time. The only problem is like, then when you lose a few games, you lose confidence. And when it's supposed to click, it doesn't click. Not because you don't have the roster that knows each other, because everyone's confidence is down, and all of a sudden you don't believe in yourself.
And when we're looking, as we said, as they're looking to the future and to be, a force again, the Doggies in a couple of years' time, maybe they do see that organiser in Matt Burton. Maybe he's not there yet, but between Serraldo, Gus Gould, all these great footy minds, they've seen enough to say, he can become that. He's just not there at the moment.
Yeah, look, they know way more about footy than me, but I just don't see it. Not that, and that's not a knock on Matty Burton. He just seems like a free spirit. He reminds me of the way Munster plays. There's these magical moments that, how many times have we watched over the last 2 years with Matty Burton where you're like, how did he make that line break? He's not that big, he's not that strong, he's not that fast, but he just did it.
Yeah.
Who does that remind you of? Cam Munster. He's not that big, he's not that strong, he's not that fast, but he just does it. And I just think Matty Burton needs to be free. Like for example, his massive bomb. You can't force that. You can't expect, if you're doing every single kick, you're going to be tempted to constantly rely on that massive bomb. The massive bomb comes when you've got someone else doing all the kicking, and then all of a sudden you get heaps of time and space, boom, you put the bomb up. And so, look, happy to be proven wrong, but I would way rather see an unrestricted, free, Dally M centre type player of Matty Burton just living the dream out there on the edge, just tearing teams apart, than him organising, in my opinion. But
I agree.
Time will tell. Time will tell.
I'll say one more thing on that, and we go back to the platform set by the forward pack, and the Doggies just lost all their middles. Like Manly ran for 400 metres more in total. They had 150 more post-contact metres. So I know that's not the be-all and end-all, but there wasn't much of a platform to work off.
But it felt to me, and obviously those stats for the whole game, I reckon Manly ran a lot more of those in the second half.
Yep.
And I thought Manly made a lot of errors in the first half that kept Canterbury in the game, and Canterbury still weren't able to execute off the back of it. Like there was plays towards the back half, and Canterbury did have good ball. They were making it up.
Yeah.
They were all over the place. I thought Manly were good. I didn't think they were fantastic, to be honest with you. I thought they still made a lot of errors, a lot of silly errors, handed a lot of ball back. But Canterbury just weren't even in the ballpark.
Yeah, I thought they started all right. Doggies. I didn't think they were that bad, first 20. So, yeah, with the Dogs, look, the positive is Reid Marnie was absolutely outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. Far out, he's dangerous out of... As a huge Reid Marnie fan, I almost feel guilty that I hadn't seen... I didn't think that he would turn into... all this extra part of his game, as we were saying earlier, where was this hiding? It was hiding in the fact that he was playing a role. It just says to Reid's character. Think about when you've got this much talent and this much ability with creativity around the ruck, and you've constantly got to run it every single week, squash that all down, and just hand good service. Must have killed him. But he's such a role player in a team that he just said, nah, whatever is best for the team. And I think that, goes even deeper where maybe that's why he felt so, put off by being lowballed by the Eels, where he was like, mate, I have shut my mouth, gotten through all the tough work, changed my game, given service and done everything you've asked for, and then you lowball me. So that may speak to how he was like, you know what? I'm out of here, man. I'm going to go somewhere where I can fully spread my wings and fly. And look, you could say, well, he's not going to be playing for premierships in the next year or two. But at the same time, sometimes just the enjoyment of playing rugby league the way you're supposed to or the way you want to is more than not more than a premiership, but more enjoyable each week.
So what I was thinking when I was watching Reid, I was just thinking, fuck, the next 10 years of Origin, once Ben Hunt is retired.
Is he the Matty Ballin of this generation?
I still think they'll go with him and Harry Grant. I think they'll do a similar thing to what they're doing with.
That's what I'm saying. Is Reid Marnie the Matty Ballin of this generation?
Yeah, for the next probably year or 2 years. But then how many years do you reckon Ben Hunt's got left? 2?
1,000.
I hope not. Good God.
1,000. He's never retired.
There's going to be a 6-7 year period, unless another hooker pops up, where I think they will go Reid and Harry Grant. And with his running game that he showed the other day, when they were on the back foot the entire time, they're going to dominate.
Hunt's going to retire from the NRL, but they'll just bring him back for Origin each year to kill us.
100%. 100%. And he will do it. He'll do some fucking dozer.
He absolutely will.
That's a good point, Guru. You're right. Queensland's hookers are set for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
As long as they both stay injury-free. And it's almost scary because, before this year, we would have said, bring Reid Marnie in, get through all the dog work, get him off, and then Harry Grant brings on creativity. Now you've got Reid Marnie doing creativity and the dog work, and then Harry Grant coming on doing the same thing.
And as you said, if they're both fit, great. But even if one of them's not, you can play one of them for 80. They'll be okay.
I know, it's so good. It's so good. The positive is for the Doggies, Reid Marnie was absolutely outstanding. Anything else on the Dogs that stood out for you? Or Alamotti, Tanner, Preston made debuts. Didn't look overall, got through their work okay.
Yeah, I just want to make note of Maxi King's effort to ground the ball on half-time with what would have been the most ridiculous try from Manly. He came from nowhere, the big fella, and just dove out, got the hand, put it down. That would have been the biggest dagger on half-time. Didn't change, the outcome of the game by any means, but it was such a special effort, I thought.
What was that 15 seconds? That was
Fox tried to
unbelievable.
offload to no one.
Look, it's going to take time. As we said before the game, guys, and we all tipped Manly, it's going to take time. So just be patient, Doggies fans. The good thing is you've got the roster now. For how many years were we sitting there going, they just don't have the roster? You got the roster. Be patient. Look where the Panthers are now. Serraldo was a part of that. Gus Gould was a part of that. Just be patient, Doggies fan. It's going to come. I will be shocked if in 2 years' time they aren't fighting in the 8. I'll be shocked.
Yeah, and no matter how poor Saturday was, or even if it was worse than what it was, you're in a better spot now than when you were this time last year, by far and away.
By a mile. Let's get on to Manly. Wow. I thought they were absolutely outstanding. Yes, they had a few errors that it stung the game in regards to, like, if they had completed a higher percentage, or basically if they had had just a few less errors in key times, it would have been almost the perfect performance. I thought their energy was there. I thought their continuity was there. Just the mongrel, their forward pack. Like, the fact that Olakau'atu took it personally that Kikau was a superstar. Like, Olakau'atu was offended that Kikau was this big superstar. He was hunting him constantly. And there was a moment at the end of the game where I go, this Manly forward pack might be building into something special. Kikau takes a normal run. Olakau'atu comes screaming in, jams him. Then I think Kikau stands up and he either drops the ball and he pushes Josh Aloiai. But before he pushes Josh Aloiai, Olakau'atu is patting Aloiai on the back going, fuck yeah, let's just pumping each other up. The game's won. They're 30 in front and he's geeing up a shot on Kikau. And it's like, when you've got dogs in your forward pack that are getting pumped in the 75th minute, up 30 jamming blokes, that's when you're going, something special building here.
Yeah, and over the last 20-odd years when Manly's been at their best, their forward pack has always just had a siege mentality. And that's what it felt like on the weekend once again. And, we spoke last week about how Anthony Seibold, he can sell papers till the cows come home. They haven't been in the media at all. And that's how the old Manly side was.
Yeah.
They
were very, almost anti-media.
They avoided it like the plague. And that's the same as what this Manly side's done, but they've come out and been the best team in pre-season. They've killed it in round 1. And it was even I thought, Lockie Croker looked really good. I thought Brad Parker, his defence was incredible.
Croker was friggin' phenomenal.
It wasn't just the stars that killed it. It was
so the disrespect that you sound surprised that Brad Parker's defence is unbelievable. When will this bloke get the recognition he deserves? He's one of the elite centres of the
When will he get a blue tick on Instagram? Yeah. It's a travesty. It's an absolute travesty. Another moment for me that was like, wow, this team unity that seems to have grown out of a tough time. So DCE chased a kick and he was ahead of everyone. And basically, I think one of the Bulldogs players dived on it. He was about a metre out from his line. And this would have been 10 minutes to go. So DCE usually, he had every right to just lay on the tackle. DCE didn't even look behind himself. He bounced straight back up and then had a little look over his shoulder. And guess what the line speed was from his forward pack? It was fucking off their line. The scoot made about a metre. And for DCE to know that his forward pack was already there, ready to fucking go. How often do you see a player, when they chase a kick and they're way ahead of the line, they'll lay on it and they'll look around to see if anyone's there to do the tackle? He didn't even turn his back. He literally bounced straight back up, and then you just saw the Manly Seal 4-pack come screaming out and jamming the scooter. And that's evidence of a team bond, a gelling. That's hard to emulate. It's hard to create. And that's where I look at Manly. I go, if they can stay fit. I mean, Tom Trbojevic was in second gear the whole game. He didn't even want to. That's terrifying. He could have made a break and he just pulled up, which is a mixture of two things. You're like, okay, I hope his hammy's all right. But at the same time, once he does kid his straps, wow.
I love seeing that, Kempy, the management of Tommy Turbo, that conscious approach of, no, like, we can't let you just go out there and go helpful level like you have in the past. We need to manage you. And wasn't it evident that when he had space there, and he had, granted it was Fox was one of the chasing pack coming after him, but straight away he just went, nah, I'm not stretching out. I don't need to. And he pulled up, and it was because, obviously a concerted effort, a conscious effort, I should say. But I also loved that they took him off early in the game.
I love that.
When they had like that, such a great way of thinking. And I've always been very critical of coaches in the past, whether it be the week before finals and they're going for Dally M votes on players or trying to get a bigger lead in a bigger winning margin or whatever, and it just achieves nothing. When they pulled Tommy off with, was it about 15, 20 to go?
Against his will too, which shows strong coaching.
Exactly right. And of course Tommy doesn't want to come off, but they did, and then unfortunately, obviously, Lockie Croker had the concussion, so he had to go back on and finish the game. But why not do that when possible in the first few rounds when they get out to a lead? Just take him off. Don't risk him.
There's no point.
I thought it was great coaching.
Great coaching, and it's strong coaching.
Yeah.
He's a new coach. He's a young coach. He's gone through everything he went through at the Brisbane Broncos. Tom Trbojevic, arguably on his day, literally the greatest player ever. Like, that's how good this guy is at fullback. And the strength to go, Tommy might be a bit pissed at me because he's got to sit at the sideline and he's literally walking back up and down because he wants to get back out there. But I'm making a strong decision for what's best for the team. I thought it was fantastic.
Tell you what, I thought Kale Weeks that came on, he had some nice touches.
He's so silky. So silky.
He's got a heap of talent. And he was playing out of position for most of the time he was on the field too. He jumped into 9 for Croker and he looked fantastic.
Ethan Bullymore, Bucky's power through to the middle. He is just explosive.
Leg speed, yeah.
So much leg speed, so hard to handle. He was great off the bench.
Tell you who could be a game changer for Manly. I've been saying for years, buy Paseka a mirror so we can realise how big he is.
Yeah.
I really hope that the weekend was a turning point for him.
Well, there was a period, I think it was 2 years ago, he had like a turning point, and when they went to the prelim.
He's had a few turning points.
Yeah, and then he regresses. He regresses back to the...
I know, the other day felt a little bit different to me.
I hope so.
He was good. He was so good.
Oh, beast. I mean, he was Nelson Asafa Solomona-like. That's how good he was. Let's talk about it, my boy, Hamolo Olakau'atu. Smoky for Origin, surely. Like, he may not have... When you look at his stats, they don't wow you. You don't go, oh, my God. But when you actually watch the game and see his impact in, like, his aggressiveness, I understand that the New South Wales side is stacked. So making the starting side is going to be quite hard. But, I mean, Olakau'atu off the bench through the middle, super aggressive. I don't mind it. I'm not saying that I would make that call yet, but I think he should be in conversation if he keeps this up.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that his stats on the weekend don't wow you. He's a guy that quite often when you get to the end of the round that you'll have a look and they are pretty damn impressive, but it is his aggression. He doesn't just do a job. He wants to hurt every single time. That's his mindset.
Knocks, like, I reckon he's got the most knockouts while running the ball of any player currently.
For sure.
He knocks people out all the time.
All the time. Yeah. And he'll also, like, we said it a few weeks ago, he doesn't hide away from work either.
No.
He's the biggest, strongest guy on the field. He could edge away from a lot of defensive work. He doesn't.
He's in his, 4th, 5th year of fucking footy? Came from basketball.
Yeah. It's
125 metres, 57 post contact, 3 tackle breaks, 21 tackles, 0 misses. Matter of fact, him and Josh Allier were the only forwards in that Manly forward pack to not miss a tackle.
Well, if you go back to the start of, I think it was the start of last season, or maybe it was the year before, when Suaalii made his first trial with the New South Wales Cup for the Bears. They were playing against Manly, and he broke his arm in that game. It wasn't that long ago that he was in reserve grade as a second rower. And now we're talking about him as an Origin, smoky sort of guy.
And the one stat that always, even on weeks where like, maybe the stats don't show how good he is in his aggression and whatnot, the one that nearly always crops up, there's only 3 this week, but it's tackle breaks for him. So just going through a few from last year in random games, his better ones, 6 tackle breaks, 12 tackle breaks, 6, 7, 8, 6, 9. Like, when he's on, he's nearly always on, to be honest.
Yeah.
People cannot tackle him.
I don't even think we're close to his ceiling too. No. As I said, he's relatively new into rugby league. Like, I am super excited for his future. And he's 22, 23?
He's young.
He's still pretty young.
And he's also a guy that...
24. That's young.
Like, he can play 80 minutes, but I often wonder with him, would he be better if he played 60?
And just let him go skits?
Let him go nuts for 60 minutes. Because like, as much as we complimenting of how much work he gets through. I think it can be a bit of a negative on his attack sometimes that he does get through so much work, and he puts. Whereas if you just put him on there for 60 and let him go nuts, I reckon he could be even more effective.
Shout out to Kohler. Another, like, he's just flying under the radar. Like, he just continues to develop as a centre. Him defensively, his tackle where he drives through the middle, it's honestly like poetry to watch.
Yep.
He just has so much explosiveness through his hips and his legs. He just, I don't know who, it was one of the bigger players that he literally jammed through the middle. Like, I don't know which one it was, but it was one of the big, maybe Kickout, I think. Just straight through the guts every single time.
It might not be groundbreaking call, but like, his ceiling is best centre in the NRL. He, with his speed and how good he is defensively, he could be the best centre in the NRL in a couple of years' time.
Well, he can be like peak Jimmy Roberts when Jimmy Roberts was absolutely tearing teams apart.
But a way better defender.
But exactly, I was about to say. But defensively, he's one of the better defensive centres in the competition.
Almost like, Josh Morris.
Yeah,
defensively,
for sure.
Speed.
I would say that he's impressed me more defensively since coming to the NRL than attacking.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
And so what's crazy is with a guy that quick, we haven't even seen him really be unlocked out there yet.
Yeah. And you also haven't seen him play a stack of footy in a Manly side with Turbo as well.
True.
He sort of came into his best at the back end of last season once Turbo was already out of the side. So, and I think you could see at the back end of last year, I've said it before, DCE is one of those halfbacks that when you earn his trust, you get a lot of ball off him. And you could see at the back end of last year, Kohler starting to get a heap of pill off him. So I reckon him and Olakau'atu on that edge, they're going to combine for a number of tries over the years, I think.
Speaking of DCE, what a game. Like, what a game. And what's I liked about it was my only knock on DCE is sometimes he can overplay. Like, he touches it too much and he doesn't allow his half to impact the game at all. But Cooper Johns is almost the perfect foil for DCE because he's just a really good solid half, good ball playing, squares defence. Like, a lot of the tries, if you go back and look who the guy was squaring the lineup. It was Cooper Johns. And his stats aren't impressive at all, but Cooper Johns was a big part of them getting extra space on the edges. DCE was absolutely outstanding. I think it's just incredible. When people are hitting 31, 32, 33, 34 years old now, they're playing some of their best footy. Whereas back in the day, you're done at 30. You're done.
Was it his first career Hattie doing that?
First career Hattie.
Yeah. And I mean, you have a look from the weekend, DCE had 68 touches of the ball. Cooper Johns still had 42.
That's what I'm saying.
It's pretty tight.
Yeah. And so you got Cooper Johns, who's really good at just laying it. Like, DCE is still the guy putting, field position, all that kind of stuff. But when you need a good structured half to just get to the line and square the defence up to create space for Tommy, there's a world where Cooper keeps that spot for maybe the year. Like, if they keep playing like that and putting those scores on, why would you move Cooper out of that position? You'd be crazy, wouldn't you?
It'd be really interesting if Manly didn't have a bye this week. That's the shit thing for Cooper.
Yeah, true.
If they didn't have a bye this week and then he had another opportunity to show what he can do and he
Are you putting Schuster back in?
Yes.
Yeah.
What about you, Matty? You putting Schuster back in?
It's tough, but yeah, I am. The whole plan's been Schuster at 6, so.
Oh,
yeah.
I'd be so tempted to move him to an edge and keep Cooper Johns in that 6 role.
Could you play him at 13 potentially, Schuster? Would you consider that or?
And Alloy off the bench as a front row rotation? Yeah. I just think it's tough on Cooper. Player of the preseason, comes out, they win by 31-6, and then, I mean, Schuster's incredible.
And to your point, if they do that, then you can fit in Weeks in the team at 14. You can fit in Cooper in the team. You can fit in Schuster in the teams. You can fit in more people.
Yeah, true. That can play more roles as well.
In saying that, I know it's easy to say play Schuster at 13 and play him on an edge. If reports are true, he's lost 10 to 12 kilos.
He's still big enough, though. He's fucking massive.
Yeah, okay.
He would still be a good 98 kilos, I'd say.
Yeah, but I mean, he has had an entire preseason. He took the World Cup off, getting ready for 5'8".
Yeah, I don't know. He's a fucking big boy, bro. But yeah, maybe physically he's not prepared to play on the edge. Look, I think they'll put him at 6. I don't think it's going to be an issue, but I think, damn, that's unfair on
Better
Cooper.
conversation than what we thought it'd be, though.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
And if they didn't have a bye this week,
and he does
Cooper
it again.
would be able to come out and do it again, yeah.
So, yeah, I thought Sean Kepi had some impact off the bench too. But, yeah, outside of that. And also, our boy, Gordon Chan Kumtong, he's on the 22nd. He's the 18th man. So they must have got him into the top 30 somehow.
Well, he'll play this week if Lockie's
true.
So.
Our boy, how good. So, yeah, Manly looking red hot. I want to see them against a top-tier side. But you cannot take away from the fact that they were arguably one of the better sides of the weekend. I'm excited for Manly. I think they're in for a big year.
I thought the back rower, Kelmer, come over from the Tigers, didn't do a stack in the game, but there was one touch he had where he put Ruben Garrick over for a try.
Hands. Such soft hands.
It was very Schuster-like.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And that's the thing, like, when let's say Cooper Johns kills it, then you've got a back row that you've got to choose between Olakau'atu, Kelmer, Tuolangi, and Schuster. Like, the depth that they're creating, I'm excited for Manly. I really am. I think their only concern, like, long term is, like, DC is so pivotal to them. Who do you get to replace him? Who's coming through that can fit that role? But, I mean, that's down the line. Okay, let's get to